Andrew, one of the instincts that you write about is first impressions to classify. Can you please explain to me how we're hardwired to make quick judgments?
Yeah, it's really the quick judgment point. Often people get a bit derailed or disappointed, a bit thrown by people. We find that people make quick judgments of me. And by the way, we could also acknowledge that we make quick judgments of others. And so it's not news that we humans make these quick judgments. What's handy to know is the reason we do it. And the reason we make quick judgments is to give us a quick form of classifying or making sense of the world around us. And we make those classifications into binary alternatives, which are really on a variation of good or bad. So if I meet someone for the first time, I have an interaction, I'm wandering past, in an unusual neighbourhood, I'm trying to decide where to have a coffee, I'll be making assessments about coffee shops based on that looks good or that looks bad coffee. Or when we have a meeting with someone, we meet them for the first time, we'll be, even unconsciously in a sense, but we will classify people into these binary alternatives. Might be like, I like that person, I don't like that person. They'll fit in well, they won't fit in well. They're one of us or they're one of them, the us and them sort of mentality. You've probably heard people around the organisation being classified as team players or not team players. That person's strategic, that person's tactical. So we deal with these binary alternatives really based on this variation of good versus bad, and it is a way in which we're able to handle the amount of stimuli, the interactions that we have with people based on this quick rule of thumb of classifying into binary alternatives.
And whilst we're talking about that, actually, Andrew, where does that come from?
So it comes from really the way in which we subconsciously are able to handle the amount of stimuli that hits us every moment of the day. So we're wandering on the savannah. We come across, or there's a rustle in the bush, or we come across another clan. It's just as well to be able to have a quick rule of thumb of making sense. Imagine if every moment of the day and the amount of stimuli that's coming in through our senses that we're needing to spend time, almost like a spreadsheet, going through the pros and cons. We just wouldn't be able to operate, or our brains wouldn't handle it. And so it's a ready way in which we're able to handle the amount of stimuli that we're dealing with, and just give us a quick rule of thumb so we can go about living and existing in the complex world, or the dangerous, in a sense of early ancestry, the dangerous world in which we operated.
Following this thread, Andrew, can you also give me an example of a service provider that you experienced when it comes down to first impressions to classify?
Yeah, so a service provider, which in a way is a branding situation, isn't it? Of what do we associate with service providers, similar to what we associate, what are the binary alternatives that we use to explain people in terms of personal brand. And so, a favourite example we would all associate with hotel experiences, and one that stood out for me mainly because of the really positive association response that was triggered for me. I went to, I'm happy to mention the hotel because it's a good example. And I've just now classified the story so that viewers know that we're hearing a good versus a bad story. So there's a good story. There's a Western hotel. It happened to be in Melbourne in Australia. I was going to a meeting at the hotel, and when I arrived by taxi, I could feel as I was paying the cab fare that my car door opened, and I sensed that it was the porter opening the door, or what might be called the bellboy in other countries. The porter opening the door, and sure enough, as I stood out, the porter had opened the car door. And when I stepped out of the car, he handed me a business card with four numbers on it, 6641. He said, "So welcome to the Western. This is the number of the taxi you've just arrived in, just in case you left your mobile phone or wallet in the cab." And I go, wow, thank you. I checked one pocket for mobile phone, one pocket wallet, took the card. Wow, thank you. Now, what they've done, engineered into the welcoming process, a really positive first impression. So I've now begun this imprinting experience of classifying into the good column the Western Hotel, about to be consolidated, because I haven't even got into the hotel yet. I've walked into the hotel. I wasn't sure which meeting room to go to or on what floor, and I just said to one of the staff members, I'm meeting XYZ company, do you know where they'll be meeting? And she was just really helpful, not over the top, just pleasant and helpful, and helped me on my way. I've now had that second experience, which is now consolidated pretty much for all time. Positive feelings associated with the Western, which says in terms of their service brand, their, in a sense, personal brand, that I've now classified positive emotions. Whenever I see the word Western anywhere in the world or on an internet advertisement, I associate positive feelings associated with that. And I guess a point that then arises from that is, once we make these quick judgments, classify into these alternatives, good versus bad, then it takes an awful lot to cause the other person or people interacting with us to change their point of view. That is, to reclassify their feelings or meanings about us or the service provider.
And the other side of that is that if we've actually made a decision that something's not good, but in fact bad, does that work in the same way?
Yeah, so it means that if we have an early experience which is bad, then, and let's say bad associated with us as in our personal branding, then it can take an awful lot of work on our part to alter the other person's impression. Let's say, for example, that I'm in charge of a project, and I've been given the project leadership. Now, if the first interactions with, say, a sponsor committee, a review executive is bad, that is, that an early review, the executive was feeling pretty anxious about the way this project is looking or the way I'm planning it, the way we're controlling it. If that first experience is a negative one, then it's just as well to be aware that probably for the life of the project, unless we work really hard and do so quickly, for the life of the project, that sponsoring executive is going to associate negative feelings and therefore a negative impression associated with the project and with the project manager.